with Soro looking likely to leave and Shaw going out on loan, still with the signings that we've made, we would still seem, as it stands, a bit bloated in the central midfield area. So my question would be, who's going to move on? I had heard a rumour, purely just a rumour, that Turnbull was potentially going to West Ham. I would doubt that, given how much he's featured under Ange. I don't think he would be the one to go. But it does beg a question. We'll probably need to make room somewhere.
I think we definitely do, because the last thing you want at any club, you've heard the rumblings at Man United, it's a broken club and there's so much politics and so many issues, but they've got so many guys that are hanging around that are just not going to feature. They've got Martial wants out, Pogba's doing Pogba things, you get Matic. This isn't a Man U thing, but you've got all these guys that believe in themselves, they think they're talents and they're just not playing. Celtic are going to end up with a similar position if you've got guys like Ajeti and Soro and some other guys that you've mentioned there, Mif. And I don't think it makes for a good environment at Lennoxtown if they are hanging around on the fringes knowing that they're not going to feature. So there's a job to be done by Ange and whoever else, James, in terms of moving guys out at this window.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt those moves are at play. It's just a financial question. So if they can move those guys on and find the right deals, they will move on, and if the deals aren't quite right, they won't. So it's a matter of asking the Celtic board and the Celtic finance how much cloth do you want to cut here to make space. But I don't think there's any doubt that every Celtic fan and everyone at Celtic knows that these guys aren't quite going to fit.
Yeah, I think so. I wonder if Barkas is up there at Lennoxtown causing chaos, Mif. Falling out with everybody.
Can he?
Feeling guys goes at the pool table.
I just don't think he could be bothered.
Too much effort.
I just don't think he could be bothered.
Yeah. To go back to Riley McGree, so he's a left-footed attacking midfielder. He's been capped 7 times by Australia, and like Ajeti, he should provide that competition for Turnbull and for Rogic. So as you say, Mif, it's great to have options, but you just don't want to have too many options, do you? Because it can lead to a bit of unrest.
Well, it's a fine balance, but like we know from certain games this season, when you've looked at the bench, it's been Soro, Shaw, Uragidi that have been options that have had to come off it. So I think what Ange's trying to do is just eliminate that, so that each time he's naming a squad, he's got that plan B, plan C, whatever it is, to go to. I think he's been fairly restricted this season in terms of the depth of the squad.
Definitely.
Another name to mention in there, and I know we spoke about him at length last week's McCarthy. Where does he fit in with us as well? To me, there's just, now that we've got clearly Ange's players in, it's raising a lot more questions around other players in the squad and where their future lies.
Yeah. If you talked about guys finding their level, talking specifically at the time about Leo O'Connell there. O'Connell.
What you need.
Exactly. Is that where Ewan Henderson's found himself? So he's now moved out to Hibs. He was obviously, well respected, well thought of within the academy. We know all about his brother Liam, who's forged out a good career in Serie A now. And I think a lot of folk were very hopeful that Henderson was going to make it. Now, you can't please all the people all the time. That now that he's moved on and we are starting to, move on some kind of bloated players. He's not a bloated player. I've got that all wrong. But that's fine.
I was going to say that. But harsh on Ewan Henderson.
We've moved him on from a bloated squad and he's over to Hibs now. I think it's fine. I think it's a move that suits all parties. He's initially on loan. It'll become a permanent deal in the summer and he goes with everyone's best wishes. You've then got other folk kicking up on Twitter saying this is a disgrace, young guys aren't getting a chance. But you only have to look at the first team just now, or the first team squad, to see McGregor and Forrest and Welsh and Mikey Johnson and Montgomery and various other guys, Dane Murray around the squad, Owen Moffat. Loads of guys do get the chance at Celtic, and at that point it's over to them to prove themselves. I think Henderson's been unlucky that he's come around at Celtic at a time when the midfield is jam-packed with decent players, but I think it's just the right move.
I mean, with regards to Henderson, he was in and around the squad when Rodgers was there. He was actually starting a few games, and then after Rodgers left, he just seemed to completely fall out of contention. Now that can be for different reasons. He went out on loan. By all accounts, he didn't exactly set the heather on fire. I think it was Dunfermline he went to on loan.
He did.
So it's just one of those things. I don't think Henderson ever actually let us down. I think he was always fairly impressive when he played in the first team. But like you say, if you look at it and you've been at Celtic or in and around the first team squad for 3-4 years, and you can still count in one hand the amount of times you've started the game, you're probably getting the vibe that your future does lie elsewhere. Yeah. Albeit that I thought especially after Bettis, he'd enough of an impact where he might have got a wee bit more game time, but he didn't. that in itself tells you a story. I think he maybe just lacked a wee yard of pace or a bit of dynamism to get about the park for Ange. That's the bit for me. He was certainly skillful enough. Probably a bit like his brother, to be honest with him. Liam Henderson was a cracking player. He actually scored on Sunday. He scored for Empoli on Sunday. Aye. Gave away a penalty, then scored the goal.
I would say there's more to it than just ability. He's a talented player, but in Ange's first refresh year, what he'll also be doing is saying attitudinally, where are these players at? You know, not just in terms of are they professional, did they turn up? Are they chasing down when they lose the ball? All of these things come in Ange's thinking. It's not just can you play football, can you play my football, and are you showing up with the attitude that I need? Yeah. And that might be part of it.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think there's anything to suggest he's not got a good attitude as a kid, but he might not be
the Harry and the chasing down.
The other thing is, Mif, there's, you know, he's maybe now 3 or 4 Celtic managers in who have all had a look, and with all due respect, I do think he's a talent, but they've maybe just decided that he's not enough of a talent to move through. And listen, there's other guys that, you know, move on to Celtic and forge out good careers, and I wish him all the best, but I just don't think he's the fit at this moment in time. Another guy that falls into that bracket, certainly right now, is Liam Shaw. So he's joined Motherwell on loan, and I actually think this is a move that Celtic should be making. Get him out, you know, get Ajeti out in a positive way to go and learn their trade, play 90 minutes week in, week out, and then come back to us in the summer as better players.
Well, first of all, I think he came to the town and was absolutely blown away by how, you know, the surroundings was
in the ML postcode area.
Pretty special, ML1, pretty special.
Yeah, a lot of good guys up there.
So, listen, you don't need to tell me that. Shaw is the classic case of someone that just has to play games. I think you've seen enough with him and Ajeti that there's something there to work with. You just need games, go out and play. And I think Motherwell will be a good... I think Alexander spoke really well of him, actually, when he signed him. So, no, I'll be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah. You were talking about Liam Henderson in Italian football. The suggestion is that we've knocked back a bid of $1.5 million from Udinese for Stephen Welsh, so 21-year-old centre-half. Obviously, we all know him pretty well by now. What do you think of that? I think that one, it's split opinion on Twitter, particularly about whether we should be accepting that bid or not. For me, no absolutely chance. Not. He's certainly third choice centre-half right now. We'll see what happens with Julian, but why would you develop a guy like that, get him into the first team and punt him for quite a paltry amount as well?
And he's also developing. He's going through his development. He's just been rushed into the squad, you know, maybe earlier than Celtic would have wanted. So I see enough in Welsh that there's something there, and I wouldn't want to see him leaving the club while he's still in that development phase. If somebody wanted to come in and be stupid and give us 12 rising to 16 million for a guy who doesn't play football, then maybe. But no, not at this stage. $1.5 million, that's just ridiculous. And what they're doing is they're trying to snap up players that they can then punt on to other leagues for, you know, profit. It's a reasonable model, but that's not going to fly.
You've seen it actually with the left back, Aaron Hickey. He's come in there, he's doing a decent job, and it looks like he might kick on to different levels. Villa were linked with him and various other sides. So maybe, you know, Italian teams are seeing some good young talent here in Scotland, thinking they can develop them and kick them on at another time. I mean, what do you think, Mif? Where do you stand on Stephen Welsh?
I wouldn't be selling him. I think he's got a role to play. What would it cost us to replace him? Would be another question. If you take $1.5 million in from somebody that's, you know, kind of settled and in the squad, it at least double, I would say, to replace him. So no, it just doesn't make any sense to me. The actual inquiry doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to be perfectly honest with you. Obviously there's a model behind it that the Italian clubs have maybe sought out, but because I know they've got a link with Watford as well. Udinese, I think they're the same ownership. Okay. But for me, no, I would keep him. I've seen a lot of people thinking, I've seen one comment saying we need to get better at knowing when to sell, but selling a 21-year-old for $1.5 million that's still part of the squad, for me that's just a big no.
Yeah, I agree with that. Don't think it makes much sense at this moment in time. So I've picked up on the fact that we've actually used 33 players so far this season, a lot of bodies, and the new signings, so 5 new signings, as well as the potential return of Julian and Karol Dembele, could take that up to 40 players very easily. That is a lot of guys to go through in any season of football. So James, we always knew this was going to be a season of transition for Ange, but it's a lot of bodies to be in and around the first team squad, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think this points to something you said earlier on about, you know, potentially creating unrest. That for me isn't inevitable. It's about communication and saying to players on the way in, as I'm sure McGree's been told on the way in, that we need a lot of players for this midfield because the way we play football, and it'll be during the game and it'll be during the season, we'll need that level of depth. So yeah, 40's, you know, maybe too many, but we know there's going to be bodies going out the other side of that as well. And bear in mind that when Ange, you know, started this journey. He was using guys, no one's mentioning Dane Murray just now. He played a serious part in getting the season off to a start. So that'll be in your number of 33 as well. So there's guys that have played and they'll drop back down to develop, much as Dawson will, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you've also got Ryan Christie and Edward in the mix.
Of course,
Joey Dawson, as you mentioned. So Owen Moffat,
Barkas.
I think it just highlights the scale of the job that Ange inherited, because he's had to go through all those players at times. The fact that Dawson's even featured or Moffat's even featured has been down to just how riddled with injuries we've been. And again, you can argue that's a byproduct of the way Ange's training them to play the way that he wants them to play. So that number of players, if Ange decides we need 10 midfielders, we need 10 midfielders. That's the way it is, lads.
I think that's it. And I think it just, as you say, if it just shows how big the overhaul has been for Ange, and that in itself, it's no mean feat, is it, to juggle those players. So as I say, we're approaching potentially using 40 guys, but by and large, he's had to do what he's had to do, on an almost weekly basis. He's had to shuffle the pack at different times, and I suppose it shows his skill in doing so, and still getting us to the position where we're seriously fighting for the league and having already picked up the first trophy.
Seriously fighting and putting ourselves in a stronger position to achieve that. Trophies in the trophy room, overhauled a full squad, playing football that we all want to see. I think the job he's done so far is nothing short of remarkable, and it's the very start of what we're going to get to see.